Alright, I want to tell you about one of the strangest things I've ever come across. Because this isn't about aliens. It's not about ghosts. It's about a machine that was supposed to let you watch the past. Like a TV. Not travel there. Not change anything. Just see it. And the guy who claimed he built it was a Catholic priest. His name was Father Pellegrino Ernetti. And he wasn't just a priest. He was also a physicist, a musicologist, and someone who worked closely with scientists. He wasn't known for miracles. He was known for studying sound in ancient music and working in scientific circles. And according to him, the idea didn't come from religion. It came from science, which is what makes this story strange, because it didn't start as a legend. It started as an experiment. So this is where Ernetti's story really starts to sound serious, because he didn't say he built the Chronovisor alone. He claimed he was part of a small group, and not random guys in a garage either. He said the team included some of the most important scientists of the 20th century. Enrico Fermi, the physicist tied to nuclear energy and early atomic research. Werner von Braun, the rocket engineer behind the V2, and later, the space program. He also mentioned other physicists and engineers whose names never fully made it into public records. According to Ernetti, this wasn't a church project. It was a science project, and his role in the group was unusual. He was a priest, but also a musicologist. He studied sound, how voices echoed in cathedrals, how chants traveled through stone chambers, how vibrations behaved in large enclosed spaces. And that's where the idea began, because Ernetti believed something strange. He believed sound never truly disappears. That when something happens, a voice, a shout, a prayer, those vibrations scatter outward. They weaken, they stretch. But in theory, they never stop existing. So the question they asked was, what if you could reverse that process? What if you could gather those scattered vibrations and reconstruct them? Not just as sound, but as images. Because sound and light are both waves. Different kinds, but still waves. Ernetti said the Chronovisor worked like a tuner, like a radio, but instead of tuning into a station, you tune to a moment, a date, a place. The machine was described as huge, not elegant, not futuristic, more like a Cold War experiment. Metal panels, vacuum tubes, knobs and dials, antennas, filters, and a special screen that could turn those signals into moving images, like a television made for the past. And according to him, this didn't work overnight. They spent years adjusting it, trying to separate noise from signal, trying to tell the difference between random static and an actual historical moment. And when it finally worked, they didn't aim it at something religious. They aimed it at something safe. Ancient Rome. He said they tuned the Chronovisor to ancient Rome, like setting coordinates, and suddenly, the screen wasn't static anymore. They were watching the Roman Senate. Not a painting of it, not a reenactment, the real thing. Men in togas sitting on stone benches, light pouring in through high windows, dust floating in the air, voices echoing off marble. He said they watched Cicero speak, which is wild because Cicero is someone we only know from written words. But Ernetti said they could see him moving, gesturing, pausing, like a living person. And he said it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like a broadcast, like history was just there. And once they realized it worked, they got bolder. They aimed it at a Roman theater, a play by Aeneas, a Roman playwright whose work is mostly lost to time. Ernetti claimed they watched the entire play performed, actors in masks, crowds reacting, torches burning. And he said they wrote the play down word for word, based on what they saw, which is one of those details that makes people stop. Because now, you're not just saying you watched history, you're saying you recovered something history lost. And that's when, according to him, the tone shifted. This machine wasn't just a curiosity anymore. It wasn't just a science experiment. It was a way around historians, a way around translators, a way around interpretation. You weren't reading about Rome, you were watching it. And that's when Ernetti said they started asking a harder question. If we can see Rome, what else can we see? According to Ernetti, the moment that changed everything was when they tuned the machine to Jerusalem, to the hill of Golgotha, to the crucifixion. He said they didn't see glowing light. They didn't see angels. They saw a man on a cross and two others beside him. They saw the crowd, some watching, some mocking, some crying. They saw the sky darken. They saw dust blowing across the ground. And he said it didn't look holy. It looked real. Not a painting, not a stained glass version, just an execution. And Ernetti claimed they watched the entire thing, from the crowd forming to the end. And he said the machine didn't just show it. At some point, he said it recorded it, which is where the photograph comes in. In 1972, Ernetti released a single image. He said it came from the Chronovisor. It was supposed to be the face of Jesus on the cross. Grainy, distorted, like a damaged signal. Not cinematic, not divine. Almost uncomfortable. And when that photo came out, people didn't know what to do with it. Because if it was real, it would be the most important photograph in human history. Not of a king, not of a war, of the central moment of Christianity. And that's when the story shifted again. Because now, this wasn't just a science experiment. Now, it was a theological bomb. If you can watch the crucifixion, you can watch miracles. You can watch prophets. You can watch every sacred moment in every religion. And Ernetti said that's when the Chronovisor stopped being a discovery and started being a problem. After that, Ernetti said the machine was too dangerous. Not because it could change the past, but because it could change the present. If people could watch history unfold, they can control it. They could decide which moments mattered, which ones were ignored, which ones were rewritten. Wars, trials, conspiracies, religious events. Nothing would stay symbolic anymore. It would all be visible. So he claimed the coronavirus was dismantled, that the parts were separated, hidden, or destroyed, and that the Vatican made sure it never surfaced again. No public demonstration, no blueprints, no working model. Just a story, and the photo, and then silence. And this is where the story gets quiet, because no working chronovisor was ever shown. No schematics were released. And the photograph Ernetti shared was later compared to a known sculpture of Christ. Same face, same angle. And none of the scientists he named ever confirmed this story. So you're left with two possibilities. Either a Catholic priest and a team of scientists invented the greatest device in human history and then destroyed it. Or this was the greatest story ever told about one. And maybe that's why it still sticks. Because it isn't really about time travel. It's about wanting to see the truth. Not filtered, not translated, not rewritten, just witnessed. So the question isn't really, was the chronovisor real? It's, why do we keep wishing it was? This is Joshua Tree Encounters, where UFOs, cryptids, and strangeness collide.